about the results. The March quarter looks, at least on the production level, very good. But let's begin at the HEPS level, where I saw a big drop there, 71% to 0.4 cents per share. And there was particularly the impact of the sale of some assets and some investment. Let's just get a bit of clarity on that. What were these?
Yes, we're actually quite pleased that we still have positive earnings per share, headline earnings per share, in view of the fact that this adjustment was mainly as a consequence of a non-cash adjustment which we had to recognize in the sale of some equipment and movable assets, which we had recognized obviously previously at a higher value.
Right, and these will not be repeated?
It's unlikely that they
So
will.
they're gone?
Yeah, it's unlikely that it would, yes.
Out of the system. Production-wise, the numbers look very good, but particularly Bly 4. Now, Bly 4 production for the quarter, at least on the underground operations, up 31%.
Yes.
Now, is that just a function of being off a low base, or the workers have been working harder than normal here?
Well, the workers showed up. They didn't go on strike this quarter, which is always nice.
Yeah.
Bly 4 was at a very low base, and that's why it went into judicial management to take a time out and have protection against hostile creditor action for a while. But it came back to where it needed to be in order to come out of judicial management, and this is what we expected where it ought to be, or where it should be by March.
And in spite of that, I mean, you had a number of things happening at the same time with seismic damage. We also had strike action, and of course with the tariff increases for 2009. Should we then perhaps extrapolate and say perhaps for the next quarter things should even be better?
Well, remember that the new electricity tariffs are coming in now since April. Eskom was clever there. They were going to implement 34% from July.
Right.
They decided to implement, 23 or 24% from the beginning of April. So they're catching up by starting a little bit earlier, and we have to absorb that.
So that
I think a lot of the higher grades that we are mining will be applied towards offsetting the increase in tariffs, the premature, or the early, rather, increase in tariffs.
Absolutely. What about Eagle? We're seeing their production up 3%, up to 9,773 ounces. Now, that's an 11% improvement on the yield. So we're seeing increased production at the same time, better grades.
It's not quite where it needs to be yet. We made a number of additional engineering changes, which we hope would have a further improvement, or bring about a further improvement during the course of this quarter.
Okay.
We really want that yield to be about 0.12 gram a ton at least by sort of middle of this year, maybe early in the third quarter.
So there's still some more work to be done there?
Yes, no, there's some more work to be done. It's not quite. We're very happy that it's in profit, but it's not generating the profits which we had wanted it to generate when we launched into this project.
And I also see you're working very hard in Zimbabwe. Now, preparations for an initial 28-week program of exploration at the Lenny Claims Day, where you have a 50-50% joint venture. But before we talk about output and plans to increase production, the politics in Zimbabwe, everybody's been hearing about the government demanding that miners particularly sell 51% of their assets to local Zimbabweans, yes, to try to make up for things that happened 30 years ago. The merits of that, it would take the whole day to explain. But is it affecting you?
Well, I think if one owned a mine, or if you had bought a mine a while back and you owned most of the equity in the mine, it may have posed a problem. But we started, this is Greenfields exploration, which we started on the basis of a 50-50 partnership with a local Zimbabwean. So we sort of 1% away from the objectives of the indigenization process that they have. And we entered into this not knowing that, that the politicians were going to shift the goalpost.
But this is the predicament of many of the miners and other investors in Zimbabwe, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you do? Have you tried to appeal to the government? Are you talking to the government about this?
It doesn't affect us. It could potentially affect us by 1%.
Will you cede the 1% though?
Yes, we may have to cede 1%.
Right.
If that's what it takes in order to continue to mine what we think is going to be a promising ore body, then so be it. At least it's not 20 or 30%.
Yeah, but what signal does that send though to you as an investor sitting here in Johannesburg? I mean, you come in on one premise and then suddenly you find the goalposts, as you say, have been turned.
But you remember that we decided to start out here on a very modest base. We're not spending more than 7.5 million. Because even without the 50 or the 51% target that they had set, we still thought that the political situation was a little uncertain. We'll spend more money once the political situation becomes more certain. In the meantime, this project's going to really look after itself. We're not going to exceed our budget, but the the opportunities there are just too good to pass. You do have to take a look there, because it can't stay like this forever. I think the general attitude amongst the greater population of Zimbabwe is such that eventually it will have to move forward.